All right, so welcome back, everybody. Today we're going dap on, well, it's Nick Saban.
Nick Saban, yeah.
Recently, he had some interesting comments
Yeah.
about Ohio State fans
Mm-hmm.
and their reactions,
Yeah.
after losing to Michigan.
It's been quite the topic.
It has. It has. We've got a couple things to look at. One is this article from On3,
Okay.
and then, of course, the RCFB subreddit.
Oh, yeah. Always a lively place.
So I'm sure there's been a lot of discussion going on there. So our mission today is to try to understand Saban's comments a little bit,
All right.
and just how fans are reacting, and the bigger picture too. Like,
Right.
how intense is this rivalry, and what's it like in college football?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it raises some big questions about, like, the nature of rivalry itself, right? Like, how much is too much?
Yeah.
And the kind of pressures that come with college football. I mean, this is a high-stakes world.
Yeah.
And I think it says something interesting about, like, the psychology of fandom. Like, why do we get so invested?
Yeah.
Why does this stuff matter so much to us?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's start with Saban.
Okay.
He was on the Pat McAfee show.
Right.
I don't know if you saw that, but
Oh, yeah. I saw the clips going around.
yeah. So he's obviously he's complimenting Ohio State. They've got talent.
Right.
I mean, they always do.
But he's also kind of questioning, like, their consistency a bit,
Yeah, like they have the talent,
Yeah.
but can they put it all together when it counts?
Right, exactly. And then he really kind of stirs the pot when he starts talking about Ohio State fans and this, um, psychotic obsession with the Michigan loss.
It's a strong word.
He did. He used that word.
Oh, okay.
And he even said that, maybe some of them need therapy.
Oh, man. Saban's not holding back.
Right. It's like, come on.
But it's interesting though, right? Because they're in the college football playoff.
Like, you'd think that would be the main thing on everyone's mind, right? Celebration, excitement.
Yeah, a huge accomplishment.
Huge, exactly. But his point is that for some fans, it feels like that Michigan loss just completely overshadows everything else.
Totally.
And that really says something about how deep this rivalry runs.
Right.
I mean, it's clearly not just about one game.
And the timing of his comments is interesting too. I mean, he's not coaching anymore, so he's got more freedom to just say what he thinks.
Yeah, maybe he's enjoying that a little bit. Kind of, oh, man yells at cloud,
Yeah, exactly. He's not worried about recruiting or, keeping things diplomatic anymore.
Right, he can just be Saban. But I do think his comments also speak to something real,
Yeah.
about the pressure and the scrutiny that coaches and players face in college football. Like, it's intense.
Totally. It's a whole other level. So speaking of reactions,
Oh, yeah?
I dove into the Reddit thread over on RCFB,
Oh, boy.
and, the reactions are all over the place, as you might imagine. But some people, I mean, they just found it hilarious.
I could see that, like, especially coming from Saban.
Yeah. Like, Alabama, they've got their own rivalries.
Oh, absolutely. Auburn.
Yeah,
Don't forget Toomer's Corner.
exactly.
Like, that whole thing was, it was a mess.
Yeah. It shows you, how far things can go
Yeah.
when these rivalries get out of hand.
Rivalry, man, it can really bring out the crazy in people.
Yeah. Well, but, aside from the humor,
Right.
I think there's a real debate going on. A lot of fans passionately defended the rivalry
Yeah.
between Ohio State and Michigan.
Yeah.
Saying that Saban just doesn't get it because he's from the SEC.
Yeah, and they have a point. I mean, you can't just dismiss the history there,
Right.
Like, this rivalry almost sparked a war
Yeah.
over Toledo.
Like back in the day.
Yeah, like, that kind of baggage doesn't just go away,
It sticks around, yeah. And it's been a while since Ohio State has beaten Michigan.
Oh, that's right.
And they're still reaching the playoff, so it's got to sting a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And, that's what makes this rivalry so interesting. It's like, even with the playoff, for a lot of Ohio State fans, beating Michigan is the real measure of success.
Yeah.
And that creates so much pressure. It's like this weight of expectation.
Yeah.
That must be really hard to carry. And that's the thing, right? It's not just about the one game.
Right.
It's about the psychological impact
Yeah.
of losing, consistently
Yeah.
to your biggest rival, especially after they were so dominant for a while,
Yeah.
So for some of those Ohio State fans, it's like the world has changed.
Yeah.
And they don't know what to do.
Yeah. I can only imagine how frustrating that must be.
Yeah.
To be so close to the ultimate goal, to win it all, but then
Yeah.
you just keep getting judged by this one game.
And it's not just the fans who feel that pressure. Like, I
Right.
mean, Ryan Day,
Yeah.
the head coach, he's said it over and over again.
Yeah.
Beating Michigan is the top goal.
Right.
So that puts a huge amount of weight on that one game.
Yeah. That makes you wonder, is that healthy?
Right.
You know? Like, shouldn't the ultimate goal be
Yeah.
to win a national championship?
Well, I think that's kind of what Saban is getting at, in his
Yeah.
own, maybe not so subtle way, but
Yeah.
he's basically asking, is it possible that by putting so much emphasis on this one game,
Right.
they're setting themselves up for disappointment?
Right. Yeah. And it's not just Ohio State.
Oh, no, no, no. I mean,
Like, we see this kind of rivalry intensity
yeah,
all over college
all
football.
the time. I mean, think about Alabama-Auburn, right?
Yeah.
Texas-Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I mean, these rivalries, they tap into something,
Yeah.
It's primal almost.
Yeah.
This sense of tribalism and belonging,
Yeah.
and when the stakes are that high,
Yeah.
well, it's no wonder that emotions runs into high.
Right. I mean, I was reading through some of those Reddit comments, and some people were saying, like, the media hypes this stuff up too.
Oh yeah,
You know, like, they make it a must-win situation,
Yeah.
and then they're all surprised when things, get out of hand.
yeah. I mean, the media definitely plays a role, right,
Yeah.
in shaping the narrative. But
Yeah.
I think it's more complex than just blaming them.
Right.
I mean, these rivalries they have a life of their own.
Yeah.
They have history
Yeah.
that goes back generations. The media, they just tap into that. They don't create it.
Right. Right. So how do we reconcile all this?
Yeah.
I mean, the desire to win,
Yeah.
the pressure to succeed.
Yeah.
This emotional weight of history and tradition.
It's a lot.
It's a lot to manage.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's finding a way to channel that passion, that intensity,
Yeah.
in a positive direction
Yeah.
without letting it consume you.
Yeah. It's funny. Someone in that Reddit thread said something that I thought was really interesting.
Okay.
They said that Saban's comments were disrespectful to the history of the rivalry.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and it made me think, like, it is hard to talk about these rivalries from an outsider's perspective.
Totally.
What might seem like an overreaction to Saban,
Right.
who's spent most of his time in the SEC.
Yeah.
It can feel really personal to people who have, lived and breathed this rivalry their whole lives.
It's like speaking different languages almost.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why these conversations are so important.
Yeah.
They force us to confront our own biases
Yeah.
and assumptions and try to understand the perspectives of people who might see the world differently.
Yeah. Well, we've talked a lot about the history
Yeah.
of this rivalry, but what about the future?
Right.
Where does Ohio State go from here? I mean,
Yeah.
can they move past this loss?
Yeah.
Can they focus on the playoff?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And I think the answer is finding a way to understand the Michigan loss within the bigger story of their season.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a setback for sure,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to define them.
Right. It seems like the key is to acknowledge the disappointment, but
Yeah.
but not let it, derail everything.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance
Yeah.
between respecting the past
Yeah.
and embracing the present.
Yeah, it feels like we keep coming back to that idea, like, finding balance.
Yeah, finding balance.
Yeah, like, balancing, like, all that history
Yeah.
with like their hopes for the future, and balancing, like, how passionate fans are
Right.
with the need to just, like, step back and
And keep things in perspective.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the challenge for Ohio State, and honestly, any program that's in a rivalry like this,
Yeah.
where the stakes are so high, it's how do you take that emotional energy,
Yeah.
and use it, without letting it control you.
There was this one comment on Reddit
Yeah.
that I just keep thinking about. It said, "I'm so tired of the Michigan game being the only thing that matters."
Wow.
And it was almost like a cry for help.
Yeah, I get that. I think that speaks to a real sense of unease
Mm.
that some fans are feeling, Like they're starting to question whether this focus, this laser focus
Yeah.
on this one game, if it's really good for them in the long run.
And maybe that's where Saban's comments, as much as people disagree with them, maybe they're actually doing some good.
Right.
Like he's making us step back and examine our own
Assumptions
yeah. Like what do we believe about rivalries, about
about being a fan.
yeah.
Yeah, he's holding up a mirror, and
Yeah.
he's asking us to think about, you know, is this intensity that we love so much? Is it also holding us back?
So what do we say to those Ohio State fans who are really struggling with this
Yeah.
loss?
Well, I think the first thing is to just acknowledge the disappointment.
Yeah.
Don't try to push it down. Don't pretend it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like those feelings are real.
It's like we were talking about before, like respecting the past.
Yeah, exactly. But then you have to find a way to move forward.
Yeah.
And that might mean shifting your perspective a little bit.
Yeah.
So instead of dwelling on that one loss,
Right.
try to focus on the bigger picture.
Yeah.
I mean, Ohio State's still in the playoff.
Yeah.
They still have a chance to do something amazing.
It's about choosing where you want to put your energy.
Exactly. And remember, being a fan, it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
So if it's causing you more stress than joy,
Yeah.
maybe it's time to rethink your relationship with the team,
Yeah.
the rivalry.
That's a really good point, and I think that applies to any fan.
Yeah.
Not just Ohio State fans.
I think it's a good reminder that sports, at the end of the day, they're supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
They're about entertainment. They're about connecting with people.
Yeah.
And if they're starting to feel like a burden,
Yeah.
maybe it's time to step back.
Well, I think we've talked about a lot today.
We have.
We've looked at Saban's comments.
Okay.
we've jumped into the world of Ohio State fandom,
Yeah.
and we've really kind of unpacked this rivalry.
One of the biggest in all of sports.
Yeah, and hopefully we've challenged some some of the ways people think about this stuff.
I hope so. Maybe we've sparked some new ideas.
Yeah,
And maybe even helped a few fans, find a little bit of peace
yeah.
in all this craziness.
It's always great diving deep with you.
It's been a pleasure.
And for everyone listening, thank you for joining us. We'll be back soon with another deep dive. But until then, keep those conversations going. And remember, it's all about finding balance.